Amma ba'd. In lesson we have makharij. It's going to be the makharij. We're going to cover all the makharij of the letters, inshallah. Last lesson we had an introduction to Tajweed. We spoke about what's the purpose of Tajweed, what's the benefit of Tajweed, that what is, why should we as Muslims learn Tajweed, and what's the virtue of learning Tajweed as well. We spoke about that last lesson, and we looked briefly as well at the Arabic alphabet. Now inshallah in today's lesson we're going to be looking more into detail at every single letter where it originates from, because that's what this word makharij means. Makharij, it comes from the word kharaja yakhruj, khuruj, which means nikalna. And in Urdu, nikalna, to exit. And makharij literally means nikal. That's inshallah what we have time at the end of the lesson. Then inshallah we'll try to go over Surah Al-Fatiha and see what we've learned, if we can implement it into this surah. Now, the first couple of letters, the makharij I want to look at is alif, waw and ya. That's alif, waw and ya. Now these three letters, in this makhraj, we are looking at these three letters when they are sukoon and when they have their corresponding haraka before it. Okay. Now, in the Arabic language, haraka refers to the vowel. Now, anyone know the three vowels in the Arabic language? Fatha, Dhamma and Kasra. Or if you, in the Urdu Zuban, it's Zabar, Zair, Pesh. Okay. Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra or Zabar, Zair, Pesh. These are actually the three vowels. These are the three vowels in Arabic. Okay, in English you have A, E, I, O, U. But in Arabic you only have these three. Fatha, Dhamma and Kasra. Okay, or Zabar, Zair, Pesh. Now this makhraj that we're looking at alif, waw and ya, it's when these letters are sakin. Now the term sakin, it means that letter with a sukoon. Okay, sakin just means that.
I didn't get what is the meaning of what is the meaning from sukoon? What are you trying to tell me?
So sukoon is basically that sign that is like it's like a full stop on the letter.
Full stop.
For example, uncle, I'll tell you, if I say the word ab, okay, yeah. Or let's say let's take Allah. When you take something that's something personal to someone, then you remember it even. So let's okay, not Hamza, because remember we spoke about last lesson, alif is not really an official letter, okay, because it's not a letter that makes a sound. So the first letter in your name, the Hamza has a fatha, but the kaf has a sukoon, because it's ak. We're not saying ka kuki, we're saying k. So that ra has a fatha and the mim has a sukoon. Ak, the alif is the dal, and then sadiq, the qaf, the qaf has a sukoon. If you take Uncle Khubayb's name, kha has the dhamma, the ba has a fatha, the ya has a sukoon, and so does the ba. Khubayb, Khubayb. So whenever a letter makes its sound, b, like b or that tells us that that letter has a sukoon. So this makharij, the first makhraj that we're looking at is when alif, waw and ya, when they have a sukoon and when they are corresponded by their, when they come after their corresponding vowels. Now for example, what does that mean? How many vowels are there? Fatha, Dhamma and Kasra, 3. And the corresponding haraka for alif is Fatha. The corresponding haraka for waw is Dhamma, and the corresponding haraka for ya is Kasra. Okay, now what this makharij is talking about, if we look at it, that these three letters, alif, waw and ya, they're pronounced from the emptiness of the mouth. Okay, they're pronounced from the emptiness of the mouth when these letters are madda. When these letters are madda, madda just means to stretch. Okay, madda means to stretch. Now we'll understand from the example, okay? Now what it means, these are pronounced from the emptiness of the mouth. So for example, we've said a letter has a dhamma and when there's a waw after it. We've said that the corresponding letter for the dhamma is waw. Okay, so when there's a waw after a dhamma, then this waw will be known as a letter of mad. We're going to go through these letters in, these rules later on, but right now we just want to briefly touch upon it because it's the first makhraj we're going over. So when there's a dhamma and there's a waw sakin after it, remember when these letters have a sukoon. This makhraj refers to when these letters have a sukoon. So when there's a dhamma and a waw sakin, sakin just means a letter with a sukoon. Okay? So when there's a waw sakin after it, then this waw will come from the emptiness of the mouth. That's what the makhraj will be. When there's a fatha and a alif after it, remember here, alif will not have a sukoon, it's just alif, okay? Alif is different from waw and ya. The waw and ya will have a sukoon and the alif will not, okay? So when there's a alif after a fatha, then it's going to come from the emptiness of the mouth. And when there's a ya sakin after a kasra, then where is it going to come from? The emptiness of the mouth. Now what this means, if you look at the example, let's look at the first example here. We have the letter Hamza with a dhamma. The screen keeps on going on and off. Inshallah, we're going to change this projector hopefully as soon as possible. But let's just look at the example right now. Hamza with a dhamma. And the next letter is waw sakin. So when we read this, we're going to say ooh. Ooh, and the makhraj for the waw sakin is the emptiness of the mouth. Because really when we're reading the waw sakin, we're not doing anything. It's like the waw sakin is automatically coming out. That's what it means by the emptiness of the mouth. You're just letting the air out. Ooh. When we look at the next part, you have ta kasra. We have ta kasra and we have a ya sakin after. Remember the corresponding letter for the kasra is ya. So when we have a ya sakin after a kasra, then it's going to come from the emptiness of the mouth. So in this example, ti, look, already when you just read the ta kasra on its own is what? Ti. Ta kasra on its own is ti. But when you add the ya sakin, it becomes ti. You're stretching the sound. So that shows that you're letting the air from your mouth, you're letting it out for longer. That's what it means by the emptiness of the mouth. That's makhraj for these three letters. Okay, so T, and then at the end you have noon fatha, and then you have a alif after it. Alif is the corresponding letter for fatha. So this is going to be recited na, because on its own, noon fatha is na. But when you add the alif after it, na. So when we say it all together, ti. Sakin, the ya sakin and the alif, what's the makhraj for this? The emptiness of the mouth. In the next example as we have as well, we have noon dhamma with a waw sakin after it. Nu. So let's say all together inshallah again. Nuhiha. Again. Nuhiha. These two words, it's got all of them together. Can you see? It's got the alif mad, waw mad and ya mad together. So when I say alif mad means the alif with a fatha before it. Alif mad. When I say waw mad, means sakin with a dhamma before it. And when I say ya mad, that means that ya sakin, emptiness of the mouth. So this is the makhraj for these three letters. Just to let you know as well, if ya comes again, and even ya comes again as well on the front page. But alif doesn't come again though. Alif is only in this one. Because if you remember, alif is not really an official letter with all the other letters. Alif is only pronounced when you stretch. Do you understand? Alif is only pronounced when you stretch a fatha. But waw and ya, they can come separately on their own. Okay? So for now, these three letters, understand that these three letters, when they come after their corresponding vowel, they are known as the letters of mad. They are known as the letters of mad. And mad just means to stretch. Okay? So this is the first makhraj, inshallah. I want you to explain in detail. We have other two, qaf and kaf. Okay? First on the pages, qaf is mentioned first on the sheet. When we look at qaf, the makhraj of qaf is when the extreme back of the tongue, it touches the palate. when it touches the top part of the strength as well. Qaf. Everyone say with me. Qaf. And say after me. Qaf. Qaf. Good, exactly, excellent. That's where this letter comes from, Qaf. It close, right of the tongue touches the palate. Qaf. And then when we read this next letter, Kaf, that's when the back happens, it makes the Kaf come out more softly. So when we say it, when the back of the tongue touches the palate, Kaf. Again, say with me, Kaf. Kaf. Again, Kaf. Exactly. So here we had Qaf. So everyone's first one, Qaf and Kaf. And if you've noticed as well, I touched upon it last lesson. About the smiley letters and the heavy. Yeah. So just touch it now again. Inshallah, we're going to go in detail over this next lesson. But it's always good to always going over it over and over again. Qaf is a heavy letter because you say it very Kaf. So you have Qaf and Kaf. Qaf and Kaf. The only difference, Qaf is when the extreme back of the tongue touches the palate, and Kaf is when the back of the tongue touches the palate. So Qaf is when it goes more back. If you note, the more side the letter is, the more longer it takes to pronounce. So if you understand this, the more letter is quicker to pronounce, Qaf or Kaf. What letter will be quicker? Kaf. Yes, but that's only the back. And Qaf is the extreme back. Understand? So Qaf is the extreme back, and Kaf, nice and soft, is just the back of the tongue when it touches the palate. Now the next three letters we have, these three letters come together. Sheen, Jeem, and Ya. Look, mentioned, Ya come again. He had Ya. And here we have Ya again. So who can tell me what's the difference between this Ya? So basically, this Ya is when it's sukoon. This Ya is when it's got a fatha dhamma kasra. Do you understand? So this Ya is when it's got a sukoon, and this Ya is when it has a vowel. So for example, Ya, you, Yi. Ya, you, Yi. Okay, so the difference between these two Yas. This one is when it's got a sukoon, when it's going to be mad. This is when it's going to have a haraka. Now, Sheen, Jeem, and Ya. What's the makhraj for these three letters? It's when the center of the tongue, it touches the palate, the top part of the mouth. So when you say these letters, Jeem, you can see that your mouth, it comes, and your tongue, imagine this is your tongue, it Jeem. And remember, you need to smile when you say this letter because this is a smiley letter. Say again, Jeem. Can you see how your mouth is together? Jeem. Next one, Sheen and Ya. When you say this, just when you say you can feel it that your tongue is touching your palate. Sheen and Ya. So these three letters are when the mouth comes together, when the tongue touches the palate, when the tongue touches the top of the inside of the mouth. Okay, so the palate refers to the top, the inside, the top part of the inside mouth. That's what you call palate. So these three letters, Jeem, Sheen, and Ya. That's where these three letters come from. And also these three letters, all of them are smiley. So we're going to say it, Jeem, Sheen, and Ya. Dad. Now Dad is quite a tricky letter. Dad is this one is Dad. Okay? Dad is a letter. Now makhraj, edge of the tongue, touches the roots of the top molars and the premolars. Now first let's understand what are the molars. So the molars are the back teeth, okay? Not
word for millah.
Latin from
Millah.
And the mill. Okay, mashallah. Because a lot of the English language, it comes from all of these other languages, doesn't it? It comes from Latin, comes from as well, I think. If I believe. The fat in which teeth, huh? The fat ones. So when we read this letter Dad, we need to imagine the Dad, that if this is the tongue, what it is, me personally, I find it easier doing it on the right side. Okay. You can do the left side, or you can do it with both. Easier to do it with the right side. Now what you need to do, your tongue, if this is your tongue, you curl up one side, you curl it up, and you put that, you know the when you curl it up, you know the bottom part of that tongue is going to touch the molars. So when you read it, it's going to sound like this. Dad, dad, dad. Okay, you don't want to say da. If you say dad, listen to this, okay? If I say dad, my tongue is flat. But when I curl it up, dad, can you hear that heaviness? Dad. I know it might be difficult for some, but it's just going to take practice. What it is, if it doesn't come to you right now, you practice it now, it will take some time, inshallah, it will come to you, but trust me, by the end of these lessons, inshallah, it will come to you. So what it is, same again, the tongue, you curl one side of the tongue. You don't need to do both. Just curl one side, just curl it, and put it against the back teeth, the molars, and then read this letter with a heavy mouth. So you're not going to say, it's going to be dad, dad. Everyone say it, dad, dad. Exactly, yes, mashallah, very good. Again, dad. Yeah, so the tongue, you don't want to make sure the tongue isn't flat. It's curled up on one side, on the right. I find it's easier to do on the right side. It's curled up on the right side, touching the molars. So dad, that's where this letter comes from. And it takes them to get your mouth into that position. So dad. One more time. Dad. One more time. Dad. Exactly, mashallah. So that's the makhraj for this letter. Now the next letter we have is lam, noon and ra. Lam, noon and ra. So lam and noon are simple. Ra is a bit tricky. So let's look at one by one. Now let's look at the makhraj for lam. The makhraj for lam is when the edge of the tongue, the edge meaning the tip. Edge meaning the tip, okay? So the edge of the tongue, it touches the gums of the top teeth. The top teeth. So these three letters, we are dealing with the top teeth. We're not going to be using the bottom teeth at all. So the top teeth for lam, it's be fairly flat when you're saying lam. When you say the letter lam, the tongue is fairly flat. Yeah? It's touching all the sides of the tongue, the edges of the tongue is touching the premolars to the premolars. So all of the top teeth, the tongue is going to be touching when you say the letter lam. Say with me, lam. You can feel the tongue is fairly flat. Lam. Again. Now when you come to, remember these three letters, the makhraj is very, very close. Noon is when the edge of the tongue touches the gums of the top teeth from canine to canine. So for noon, the tongue is going to be more up. For lam, the tongue was flat. For noon, it's going to be a bit more curved. So this one, noon. Again, noon. One more time. Noon, exactly, noon. Very easy, noon. So lam and noon, very easy. It's just these lessons, you might think these lessons are a bit pointless, but the purpose of these lessons is so that we're familiar with where the a whole of tajweed to learn each letter's makhraj. So for example, going forward, if someone was to ask you, Uwais, where does the letter Jim come from? You should be able to say it comes from when the tongue touches the Jim, Sheen and Ya. The mouth comes together. So that's the whole purpose of doing these lessons. So lam again, when the edge of the tongue touches all of the top teeth. Lam, from the premolar to premolar. Noon, the tongue is a bit more curved up. And when it's curved up, it's only going to touch from canine to canine. Noon. Now ra is a bit difficult. Now ra is when the edge of the tongue touches the gums of the top teeth, including the immediate top of the tongue from incisor to incisor. Now what this means is this letter ra, we want to make sure we don't read it like ra. Okay, we don't want to say ra, we want to say ra. Almost like our tongue is shivering. Ra. So our tongue, not only are we even curling up even more, but the tip of it, we are, what do you call it, kind of curling as well. Ra, ra. So ra. And here we're not even touching the canine. It's only that incisor refers to the first two teeth. Okay? That, you know how rabbits, they have very big incisors. That's what incisor refers to. So for the letter ra, your tongue is only going to touch the front two teeth. So ra. We want to make sure we don't say ra. Don't say ra. It's ra. 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 Yeah? So the tongue is going to curl up even more. Again, ra. So when we look at each of them again, read after me. The first letter, lam, noon, and ra. Again, ra. So that's where this letter comes from. So all three of these letters, they come when the edge of the tongue touches the top teeth. For lam, it's all of them. For noon, it's from canine to canine. And for ra, it's only the front two. Okay, so that's these three letters. The next three letters we have is dal, ta, and ta. So dal, which is smiley letter, remember, dal is smiley, ta is strong, is heavy, and ta is smiley. So we want to make sure, if you remember last lesson, I think it was 5 pairs that we spoke about. 5 pairs. If you remember, we spoke about the heavy version and we spoke about the smiley version. Remember, we said that one pair is ta and ta. Yeah, these two letters, they sound the same, but ta is the smiley version and ta is the heavy version. Another two was dal and da. Dal and da. Yeah, so dal was the smiley version and da was the heavy version. So in these three letters, dal, ta and ta, what's the makhraj for these? It's when the tip of the tongue, it touches the roots of the top central incisors. So same again, what it is very simple, you just feel it. The tip of the tongue touching where? The front is touching the root. The behind, the back of the root. So when you say dal, dal, you can feel that your tongue is touching where? Isn't it? Dal, ta, and then ta is just strong. It's the heavy version. Ta, dal, ta, and ta. So that's these three letters. Very simple, inshallah. The next three we have is tha, dal, and va. Now these three letters, if you remember, I like to call them the tongue biting letters. I like to call, and I emphasize on these three letters because a lot of us, we've grown up reading these letters as sa, za, and za. Yeah, we've grown up reading these letters as sa, za, and za. But that's wrong. That's wrong. Why? Because that's not the correct makhraj of these letters. What is the correct makhraj? When the tip of the tongue, it touches the edge of the top central incisors. So basically, the tip of the tongue, it touches the edge, the edge of the front two teeth. It touches the edge of the front two teeth. So basically, you're biting your tongue. The. So you can see when I say the letter the, my tongue, the tip of my tongue is touching the edge of my front two teeth. The. Tha. And really smile when you say these letters. Tha. And this one, which is the heavy version of dal, va. So remember, very important that we pay extreme attention, because I know many of us, we've been reading these letters sa, za, and za. So we got to make sure we read it tha, tha, and va. So all of you say it. All of you say it. There. Good, excellent. Read after me now. Tha, va, and tha. Excellent. One more time. Tha. Again, really smile and say it. Tha, va, and tha. Yeah, excellent. So these three letters, that's where the makhraj of these three letters come from. And like I like to call them, the tongue biting letters. Just remember that you got to bite your tongue when you say these letters.
And za.
Which one, uncle? The first one is dad. Dad. This one is va. Va. Remember this one, dad. So you don't want to say zad. It's not zad. It's dad. Remember the makhraj. Yeah, in Urdu, yes, exactly. In Urdu you call it za. In Urdu it's called zad, isn't it? Za. And what it is, the letters are the same, the sounds are different. Letters are the same, the sounds are different. So you got to remember the dad, which is a very tricky makhraj. Remember the tongue, you curl it up, you do jiu-jitsu on your tongue, yeah? You flip it upside down and you make it touch the front teeth. The molars. the roots of the molars, okay? The back molars. So dad, yeah? Dad. You understand? Dad. So not zad, dad. Dad. Curl your tongue. Because when you curl your tongue, listen very carefully. When you curl your tongue, you can hear the fatness. Dad. Can you hear it? Dad. It sounds very rich. Dad. That's the makhraj of this letter. When you say waladdallin, you want to make sure you don't say waladdallin or walazzalin. Waladdallin. Okay? So that's the makhraj for dad. And this one is va. So va is a bit more simpler. Just make sure you're biting your tongue and you read it with a heavy mouth. Va. Va. And this one is the. And the one at the end is tha. Tha. Mubashir, but you nearly said sa. Tha. Bring your tongue out. Bring your tongue out. Tha. Tha. The. And va. So that's the makhraj of these three letters. And the next letters we have is sin, sad, and za. And these letters are actually called the whistling letters. Because when you listen to it very carefully. Sin, za, sad. It sounds like a whistling sound. That's why these letters are called the whistling letters. And the makhraj of these letters is when the tip of the tongue, it touches the edge of the bottom central incisors, including the top central incisors. What that means is when you say these three letters, your mouth is going to be closed. It's not going to be open. It's going to be closed. And when you say it, your tongue is going to be flat on the bottom, and the tip of your tongue is going to touch the bottom of your front teeth, the bottom of your bottom teeth. So, sad, sad. Say sad. So can you hear the whistling sound? Sad. And you should be able to feel your tongue is flat. Your tongue is flat on the bottom. Sad. Again, sad. And can you see your teeth are closed as well? You're not saying, you can't say these letters with your mouth open. Your teeth need to be closed. So sad. And then we look at sin. And then za. Za. If you look, za is smiley, sin is the smiley version, and sad is the heavy version. So sin and sad are another pair of opposites, okay? So again, everyone say after me, za, sad, and sin. Again, za, sad, and sin. See, so that's these three letters. They are known as the whistling letters. When the tip of the tongue, it touches the edge of the bottom middle teeth. Okay. And the next letter we have is fa. We have fa. Now this letter is when the inner center of the bottom lip. Imagine your lip, your bottom lip, divided into three sections. You have the outer section, which is the dry part. You have the inner section, which is the wet part, because the inner part is wet. And then you have the middle section. So you have the outer, the inner, and the middle. And fa comes when the middle of the bottom lip, not the outer or the inner, the middle of the bottom lip, it touches the edge of the front two teeth, the edge of the top central incisors. So when you say it, can you see where my teeth are? It's on the middle of my bottom lip. Fa. Fa. Again, fa. So I'm not going to say fa. If I say, you see, Mubashir is laughing because I'm saying it wrong. And I'm not going to say fa. It's wrong. Okay, it's not going to be inner and it's not going to be outer. It's going to be in the middle. So fa. Fa. And is this letter smiley or heavy? Smiley, yeah? It's smiley. So fa. So that's where this letter comes from. When the middle of the lip touches the edge of the front two teeth. Now the next letters we have is ba and mim. Ba and mim. Now here you'll see the difference between the outer part of the lip and the inner part of the lip. Now ba, when we say the letter ba, which one do you think, I've written it on your sheets actually separately. But when you say the letter ba, ba is when the outer part of the lip, okay? The dry part. The outer part of the lip is the dry part. When the dry part of the lip meets. So ba. Ba.
Wet is showing wet.
Did you say wet?
Inner portion.
The Ba. It's meant to be the opposite. It's meant to be the opposite. Ba is the outer part. And mim, because if you feel it, I made a mistake there, inshallah. Please swap it around, because if you feel it, if you think about it, when you say ba, your lips are more, meaning, let me say ba, can you see my lips? You can't see it, can you? If you can't see my lips when I say ba, that's because my lips are closing more. And when I say mim, can you see my lips? Can you see my lips? Mim, that's because my lips are, they're closing less. So that proves, here we've proven that I've written it wrong. That proves that mim is the the wet portion of the lips meet. Mim. You can even feel it. When you say mim, it's slippery, isn't it? Try it. If you go to the makhraj, it's all about exploring these makhrajes. When you go to the sound of mim, you can actually, your lips slide off each other. Why? Because it's wet. But when you say ba, it's harder. Try it. You can't do it. Your lips aren't slippering. They're not slipping. Because why? Ba is on the dry portion and mim is on the wet portion. So for ba, the lips are closed more, and mim, the lips are closed, but you can see the lips. So everyone say with me, ba, and mim. So these two letters as well, these two letters are smiley, okay? Please do make the swap, just make an arrow to show that it's the wrong way around, okay? And now the next letter we have is waw. We have waw. Now the makhraj of waw is when the lips partially meet to form a small circle. The lips partially meet to form a small circle. Now if you remember waw, we came across waw right at the beginning. Do you remember? What's the difference between that waw and this waw? That waw was sukoon, mud. Sukoon meaning mud, okay? That waw was sukoon. So when it's a sukoon and it comes after dhamma, it's mud. And this waw is when it's fatha dhamma kasra. And this waw is when the lips partially meet to form a small circle. I've seen a couple of my students, when they read this letter, they say vow. They'll say vow. Remember, there's no va in Arabic, okay? It's wow. Make the lips into a circle shape. Wow. And this letter is wow. Wow, mashallah, uncle. Very wow. So this letter, it's a smiley letter, okay? Wow. And the lips, they form a small circle. Now, alhamdulillah, we've gone over majority of the letters. Inshallah, I want to finish off with the next one as well. The 6 letters we still haven't covered. And these 6 are known as the letters of the throat. Yes, mashallah, we did a lot of this in Ramadan, if you remember, the letters of the throat. And the reason why I wanted to mention them separately, I wanted to mention these on a separate slide, because even though we've come across all these letters so far, if you understand it, perfect. But these 6, make sure you memorize. These 6 you have to make sure you know off by heart, because these 6 are very, very important. Okay? Now the huruful halaqi, huruf means throat, and halaqi means throat. So huruf means letters, huruf means letters, and halaqi means, Moshe, come inshallah, come join me. Huruf means letters, and halaqi means throat. So huruful halaqi, letters of the throat. And the 6 letters of the throat that, please, I want every one of us to make sure we memorize these letters. Very important. Compared to all the others, these are very important in regards to the tajweed rules, okay? So these, I'll just say them right now for everyone to listen. So you have Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, Ghain, Kha. So again, Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha, and Ghain, Kha. Now the first 4 are smiley. Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha. The last 2 are heavy. Ghain, Kha. Ghain, Kha. Now all 6 of these are the letters of the throat. Huruful halaqi. Now where do they come from? Inshallah, we're going to look in at detail on this last slide today, inshallah. The first 2 we have, they come from the aqsal halq. Aqsal halaq. Now what does aqsal halaq mean? Aqsa refers to bottom. It refers to the low. So aqsal halaq refers to the bottom part of the throat. The bottom part of the throat, which refers to the throat nearest to the chest, okay? And the two letters that come from these are Hamza and Ha. Hamza and Ha. Just a note, even though it's called Hamza, the sound it makes is Ah. Ah. So just for the sake of, let's call it Amza. Imagine there's no H there. Call it Amza. Amza. Amza and Ha. Now the way to identify and know that if you make your fingers into a scissor shape and you put it right at the bottom of your throat and you say these two letters and you squeeze and you say Amza and Ha, you can feel your throat vibrate at the bottom. Amza, everyone say with me, Amza and Ha. You can feel it vibrate a lot for Ha. Again, Amza and Ha. So these two letters, Amza and Ha, they come from the Aqsal Halaq, the bottom of the throat. The next two we have are Wastul Halaq. And Wast refers to the middle. Wast refers to the middle. This refers to the center of the throat. Yani nearest to the Adam's apple. And which two letters come from here? Ain and Ha. Ain and Ha. And these two letters come from this makhraj. And this letter Ha, I like to call it the spicy Ha. I like to call it the spicy Ha. The reason why is because have you ever had spicy food and then you're dying for water? That's the sound that this letter makes. We want to make sure we don't say Ha. For this letter Ha, we don't want to say Ha. Because if you say Ha, what have we done? We've changed it, haven't we? If you look at the first makhraj, you have Hamza and Ha. If you say for the spicy Ha, if you say Ha, you changed it. And if you remember from the first lesson, when you change a letter into another one, what kind of error is this? A major or a minor? It's a major error because it can change the meaning. So this letter is Ha. Yeah, just remember, spicy. Ha. Ha. Say with me, Ha. Ha. And this letter is smiley as well, okay? Ha. Again, Ha. And then the other one you have is Ain. Ain. You want to make sure as well you read this letter from the middle of the throat. So if you make your fingers into a scissor shape and you close on the Adam's apple, you will feel the Adam's apple move. Ha and Ain. Again, Ha, Ain. Ain. And Ain is a letter. A lot of people get confused. They confuse this letter with which one? Which letter do you think a lot of people confuse Ain with? Hamza, yes. A lot of people, they'll read the Hamza, they'll read the Ain as a Hamza, which is, it's a major mistake. You want to make sure when you read the letter Ain, you You don't want to say If you say then what letter have you read? You've read the Hamza. So make sure you don't say you say So if you think about it, the two letters from the Wastul Halaq are very similar to the two letters from the Aqsal Halaq. The two letters, the Ain and Ha, are very similar to Amza and Ha. So we got to make sure we read these two letters differently. Hamza and Ha from the bottom of the throat, Ain and Ha from the middle of the throat. And the last two letters we have, inshaAllah, come from the Adna al-Halaq. They come from the Adna al-Halaq. And Adna refers to the top. So Adna al-Halaq refers to the top part of the throat, yani the part nearest to the mouth. The part nearest to the mouth. And the two letters that come from this is Ghain and Kha. So everyone say with me, Ghain, Ghain and Kha. Okay, a lot of people, they get confused with these three letters. Remember, Ghain and Kha. Again, Ghain and Kha. And these two letters, compared to the other four, the top four were smiley, and these two letters are heavy. So Ghain and Kha. So these are the 6 letters of the throat, Huruf al-Halaqi. Please try your best to memorize these 6 letters. Go over all of the makharij that we've done, but memorize and remember these specifically. Very important that we remember these 6. Okay, that these 6, what makes them different from all the others? These 6 come from the throat. 2 from the bottom, 2 from the middle, and 2 from the top. Everyone say with me, Hamza, Ha, Ain, Ha. Say again, Ain, Ha, and Ghain, Kha. Again, Ghain, Kha. So that brings us inshallah to the end of the makharij of the letters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand these makharij and learn them and give us the ability to pronounce them to the best of our ability. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just press the stop button inshallah. Or Adam. Inshallah.